How's it going, everyone? So if you're involved in the stock market at all, which I'm sure you should be if you're watching this video, check out what SPY and QQQ did towards the end of the day. They took an absolute dump. Look at this 5-minute chart. That's pretty wild. Ended up breaking the low a day and had a very aggressive sell-off. The SPY pulled back to the 9 EMA on the daily. Now let's check out the Qs. Closed just slightly above the 9 EMA on the daily, but this feels like a little bit of a change. Now, who knows? Maybe the dip could get bought and we get right back to those highs, but that is a heck of a sell-off candle on both SPY and QQQ. And here's the 5-minute chart on the Qs. Cleared out the lows, aggressive sell-off. Same with the IWM. A push to new 52-week highs, I believe. Yep, new 52-week highs. And then immediately got back below prior day high, and then IWM. Sold off aggressively once it cleared out the low a day. Not as aggressive as SPY and QQQ as far as range, just because the range on the IWM is not as big, but that is a pretty aggressive downside red candle. So this is how I prepare for the next day. I flip through a lot of daily charts, and then I just have an idea of maybe some good setups. Now, nothing has to happen, just focusing on key levels, and then it's all about where everything opens up. If we have a massive gap down tomorrow, that's going to be a different setup. If we have a slight gap up or even a flat open, then I think that these setups are going to be in play. So I'm going to pull over the stocks and the levels that I'm looking at, and I think have a possibility of being some good setups tomorrow. And remember, I post this on my Instagram account. It's at Matt_Diamond. And in the Alpha Academy, which is my broadcast channel, I post this after every single market at the end of the day. Just some stocks I'm looking at, potential daily charts. Now, no setups have to happen. Sometimes I can be very wrong, but it's just all about the levels. If they never get to those levels, then I'm not going to consider it a trade. It's all about the setup being there. And if it is, then I will take it. But these are some of the daily charts and the levels that I like. IWM, 195.95 for the downside gap fill. So let's go over that. So why? Because this is going to be, not only is it that prior day low that's going to be today, but tomorrow this will be prior day. It's also the low of the gap up. So 195.95. So a pretty big support break. And if it breaks that support, it does have a gap fill to the downside at 193.64. So there's a little bit of a void here. If we end up clearing that out, now if we just gap down to that level, then the trade is not going to be as clean. It needs to kind of open up right at this level. And if it does, then I would consider possibly more downside for a quick little gap fill. And as far as the next thing on watch, it's going to be GOGO. 139.41 for a possible gap fill at 138.77. Now let's go over GOGO. So pushed over 142, which was big resistance, and then sold off aggressively with the rest of the market. What is the low of today? 139.41. If we end up opening flat or have like a small gap up, but it opens right at that level, look at this small gap to the downside on GOGO, 138.77. And if the overall market is pretty weak, this could fill that downside gap and who knows, go a little bit further because it's not like it has to stop right at that spot. Maybe it could pull back, test the 9 EMA, and then who knows, continue higher. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Just going over the possibilities of what may happen. Also, Tesla, 247. Possible second day continuation trade. Now, I like this kind of setup when you have stocks that have big moves to the upside or big moves to the downside on that day one. And I feel like this Tesla, the momentum kind of shifted. A big move to the downside, a day one move down, closed below the 9 EMA on the daily. Also, look at this 246.50. This was a big area of resistance. So if Tesla, it was a big area of resistance, now pulling back into it, it should be support. But if it gets below that and turns support into resistance, maybe Tesla could pull back because it caught a lot of people off guard above 250, anticipating a much bigger breakout. So the low a day is 247. So Tesla opens up right around this 247, a slight gap up or even kind of a flat open, a little bit of consolidation off the open, and then it breaks prior day low, 247, also a whole number. Sometimes there's liquidity there. And then we end up having a move below this 246.50, turn 246.50 into resistance. Maybe it could test the 20 SMA on the daily at 242.63 right now. So that's Tesla. Now let's go check out NVIDIA. Look at this NVIDIA rejecting that 500. And that is a pretty aggressive downside candle. If you just look at the size of this candle compared to the other ones, mean, there are some that are close and sometimes they don't get more follow through. I feel like this happened at a pretty key spot because it looked like it was going to make a new all-time high and then rejected that 500 and closed below the 9 EMA. So the low of day is 480.98. Just call it 481. If NVIDIA opens flat or even just up slightly, has some consolidation, and then it clears out prior day low, there's the possibility for second day continuation to the downside. Nothing has to happen, but just looking at what could happen. And then if it ends up breaking that 481, turns 481 into resistance, it could test the 20 SMA at 476.74. And now to go over the next stock, Boeing, 260, major support break. Let's go check out this Boeing. This is pretty simple. Look at this daily. The daily on Boeing is insane. Very extended to the upside, but in a clear uptrend, finally showing a little bit of failing at the highs. And then look at this 260. That is a major support level on Boeing on the 15-minute. Now, it doesn't have to break down, but if the market is weak and Boeing were to break 260, turn 260 into resistance, so what was support turns into resistance, it could possibly pull back to the 9 EMA on the daily at 254.65. And then the last one that I like going in tomorrow is going to be MU. It's going to be in play because it has the earnings catalyst. So MU reported earnings. It does have the gap up into a little bit of resistance right around 83. But if it can clear out this 83, which is the prior pivot high on the daily, as long as the market isn't super weak, maybe it gets a little bit of continuation to the upside, vice versa. If it stuffs at 83, turns 83 into resistance, it could pull back a little bit, but there is a lot of support below, so it could be choppy. Regardless, it has the catalyst. It should trade on elevated volume, so there's the chance that patterns could have some follow through and it could trade clean. That's it for the video. I appreciate you watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.